Hello. Welcome back. Even if you are the most outgoing extroverted person, there are times when you want to be left alone. There are also many seasons out there. Whether you're talking climate, sports, entertainment, holidays, but have you considered that there should be a leave me the season? I have. I even created a tee that I'm very proud of at my apparel site, justtextclothing.com, that celebrates your wanting to be left alone season. Whether it's ringing in the new year on January 1st, or closing the year out on December 31st, or any of the other 363 days, 364 in leap years, you chose to celebrate the season. Now I also co-wrote this story that I hope you stick around to listen to with my AI buddy entitled, Leave Me Alonia. The protagonist, Candace, flees holiday chaos for peace, but solitude's charm soon fades. Yeah, I know it's mid-February at the time of release of this story, but if you think I'm waiting 9 months until the holiday season returns to release this story, 3 letters for you. LOL. Plus the theme of Leave Me Alonia, besides the holiday season is Leave Me the alone. I've spent this intro explaining that is a year-round season. Now enough setting up, here's Leave Me Alonia. Enjoy.
Chapter 1. The Republic of Leave Me Alonia. Candace always despised the holiday frenzy that descended each December. As soon as Thanksgiving dinner wrappers hit the trash, the mad dash of hustle and bustle would commence. She loathed the crowds, expenses, and forced cheeriness that overtook the season year after year without fail. Most of all, Candace dreaded the inevitable encroachment on her solitude as family and friends tried luring her to shopping sprees, parties, concerts, and gatherings of all kinds. She cringed at the thought of making small talk with distant relatives or trying to feign interest in the latest office gossip. Each year, as the big box stores plastered up colorful holiday lights and Christmas trees earlier across town, her Grinch-like spirit sunk lower and lower. By November's end, Candace could already sense the anxiety and depression creeping in. The constant pinging of sale alerts on her phone, the traffic snarls of deal-seeking shoppers, and the holiday tunes assaulting her ears at every turn wore her patience thin. She even snapped when the barista tried handing her a complimentary candy cane with her usual coffee order. Enough was enough. So this year, Candace decided to take a defiant stand for sanity. She declared her small suburban home an independent republic called
Leave Me Alonia.
For the entire month of December. Bold black and white laminated signs stating the strict isolationist laws of the Republic hung from each front door and window.
No soliciting. No visitors. No unnecessary contact inside or outside the Republic until January 1st.
Read the marching orders to the world. On December 1st, newly re-elected President Candace drove to the edge of town and gleefully stuffed her mailbox full of every charity plea, holiday event flyer, community newsletter, and store promotion she could get her hands on. Return to civilian sender, she shouted with each handful she crammed inside. Let the reclusive times roll. She even canceled the morning paper and mail delivery for the season. Next, President Candace did an inventory of the food, wine, household supplies, medications, and provisions within the Republic's borders. Satisfied her kingdom could sustain a month-long self-exile from the world, she queued up weeks' worth reading material, arts and crafts projects, nostalgic movies to watch, and soothing podcast playlists. When her exasperated family members called begging her to come to her senses and be reasonable, she simply pointed to the nearest
Leave Me Alonia
poster as her sole reply before abruptly hanging up. Not even offers to keep visits quick and painless could deter the anti-shopper president. Independence Day had at long last arrived. As the first snow flurries swirled outside her cozy living room window, President Candace smiled contentedly. She raised a toast of Irish coffee to herself as she settled into the overstuffed couch wearing pajamas and furry slippers. Let the new republic live long and prosper. The ornaments and lights could gather dust. At last she governed a silent sanctuary of solitude and peace from the frenzied world. Chapter 2. Reveling in the Republic of Me. As December progressed, Candace settled happily into her solitary routines within the self-declared Republic of
Leave Me Alonia.
Without the usual hustle and bustle looming outside her frosty windows, she reveled in the slow, quiet days alone. Most mornings, she would lazily read in bed with a steaming mug of cinnamon tea, often dozing off under a mountain of fluffy blankets and pillows. The tedium of everyday chores felt less burdensome knowing she could take as long as she wanted without making plans, rushing about, or appeasing other schedules. The Republic ran on its president's clock alone. When the mood struck, Candace would crank up her eccentric music playlists loud enough to echo through the empty rooms. She'd leap freely on furniture, dance wildly sans judgment, and belt out lyrics poorly but with cathartic abandon.
In my castle of quiet, where the echoes are my crowd, I dance in the shadows, where my thoughts are loud. No need for approval, no eyes that seek to judge. Here in my fortress, against the world, I hold no grudge. I'm dancing alone, with a smile on my face. In my realm of silence, I've found my own grace. The music's my partner, the rhythm's my guide. Dancing alone, in my solitude, I take pride. The world spins madly, outside my peaceful snare. But I'm lost in a moment, without a single care. Singing off-key, with no one to hear but me. In these moments of solitude, I'm truly free. I'm dancing alone, with a smile on my face. In my realm of silence, I've found my own grace. The music's my partner, the rhythm's my guide. Dancing alone, in my solitude, I take pride. No festive lights, no crowded nights. Just me, my shadows, and these four walls. In my heart, I've found a part where happiness quietly calls. So here's to the quiet, to the bliss of being alone. To dancing and singing in a world of my own. No need for the glitter, for the holidays guys. I've got all I need, under the winter's skies. I'm dancing alone, with a smile on my face. In my realm of silence, I've found my own grace. The music's my partner, the rhythm's my guide. Dancing alone, in my solitude, I take pride. Let the world rush on, in its frantic pace. I've found my peace, my own space. Dancing alone, I embrace my fate. In the quiet, in the calm, I celebrate.
You were the bomb tonight, baby. That was hot.
Midday clothing was optional. Meals occurred on a whim. She moved through her now timeless days according to creative impulse alone. The long, cold afternoons lent themselves to marathon crafting sessions, her latest hobby exploration. She taught herself to crochet chunky scarves and knit lopsided sweaters, meticulously decorated pine cone wreaths with foraged evergreens, and attempted elaborate holiday cookies that often ended in burnt crumbs or runny gingerbread. Pipes of frosting exploded, knitting needles broke, sewing machines jammed, yet Candace persisted proudly. Each failure still tasted sweet in her kingdom. Losing track of time immersed in creativity, evening would find Candace preparing elaborately themed dinners just for herself. She lit candles, donned funny light-up holiday headbands and loud reindeer slippers, and relished eating at a lavishly decorated table complete with fancy china, without making small talk or worrying about manners, guests, or obligations. Occasionally, pangs of loneliness did emerge when fond memories surfaced. She missed typical traditions like baking cookies with her niece, decorating the great Norway spruce with cousins, and chatting while stringing popcorn garlands. Once or twice a day, sadness crept in at the edges of her abundant alone time. But she quickly brushed it off with a holiday cocktail and lost herself again in reading, puzzles, or listening to a podcast until she dozed off. Mostly though, in those quiet moments, Candace felt no longing for the usual holiday frenzy she avoided each December. The pantry remained well-stocked, bills paid in advance, festive lights kept switched off. She had shelter, safety, provisions, and silence had become the closest companion. Her watch read only
Me time.
now. Yet her family and friends persisted in interrupting the peaceful, snow globe world Candace crafted in isolation. They swung by with baked goods, small gifts, gentle holiday updates, and community news. Ever optimistic, they hoped to lure her out from hibernation with even quick conversations and drive-by hellos through her frosty front door. Whenever headlights swept across her living room signaling another attempted visit, Candace would freeze like a statue, ceasing all movement until the concerned interlopers gave up and left behind whatever excuse brought them there. The solitude must reign on. Her stand-alone kingdom continued without a hitch as December crawled by. Or so it seemed at first. Chapter 3. Iced over, the melting point of isolation. By Christmas Eve, the enchantment of isolation had faded for Candace. The quiet days and silent nights alone lost their luster as the reality of the holidays sunk in. Part of her had believed going off the grid in her impenetrable sanctuary meant time itself would stand still there too. That inside the snug little republic of
Me Alonia.
Exempt from society's chaos and calendars, the stream of days need not flow at all. She could exist in an endless peaceful present like a real-life snow globe. Shake things up out in the world, but inside Candace crafted stillness. She did not anticipate the waves of nostalgia for traditions once avoided that began crashing within her. Baking and off-key caroling echoed now only in memory. Decorations gathered dust rather than eliciting their quiet joy in years past. Even her overabundance of solitude had an expiration date. After weeks alone, Candace felt the weeks themselves. The silences stretched tighter. Her reflections meandered down melancholic paths. She longed for human connection, but commitment to her seclusion experiment still pulled taut. During a half-hearted journaling attempt on Christmas Eve, loneliness welled up profoundly within Candace. How had her extreme solution tipped towards its own painful extreme? She scribbled the question amidst pages of superficial diary entries about card-making and other hollow activities. Overcome by this crisis of disconnection and lost holiday purpose, Candace stuck her mittens in her coat pocket and headed out into the night for a walk to clear the sadness fogging her thoughts. In her tearful haze beneath twinkling holiday lights strung outside neighboring homes, she failed to notice how far she had wandered. It was only when the glow inside Republic headquarters faded fully into the distance that Candace realized her keys lay uselessly back on the kitchen table at home. Standing there coatless, phoneless, keyless in snowy darkness on Christmas Eve, Candace broke down fully. Had isolation taken her too far? Memories of happy times with family flooded in as she braced herself against the cold seeping through her reclusive armor at last. All she had wanted was less chaos, yet on this silent night, that came at the cost of no connection at all she feared. Chapter 4. From Me Alonia to Laughing Together. As Candace stood shivering in darkness on Christmas Eve, having locked herself out of her self-imposed solitary confinement, she debated whether she deserved rescue at all. Hadn't she repeatedly scorned holiday warmth and connection? Maybe such isolation was its own punishment, she thought while pacing to generate warmth. The distant glow of festive lights and wafting scents of holiday meals from neighboring homes stirred regret inside her instead of previous resentment. She pictured loved ones gathered happily inside instead of exiled out here alone. Bitterness toward the frenzied season thawed into remorse over rejecting traditions herself this year. When an unfamiliar news van suddenly pulled up, Candace eyed it warily. Had her
Leave me Alonia
signs and antisocial reputation attracted media attention? She watched astonished as Nick White, a reporter from the local Channel 6 station, approached waving cheerily.
There you are, Candace. When you didn't answer your door, your family suggested we might find you out for an evening stroll. Care to share why you're spending the holidays isolated inside your suburban home?
Candace blinked uncertainly. The intrusive query should have annoyed her, but the absurdity of her solo vigil on Christmas Eve struck her suddenly. A chuckle escaped.
Let's just say the mall Santa doesn't have open office hours for the town hermit.
She quipped. The reporter laughed heartily in response while his cameraman caught the exchange. Candace found herself opening up humorously to explain her dissent from the usual holiday hubbub. Perhaps speaking her eccentric truth could replace the company she excluded this season, she considered. As the interview wrapped, Nick suggested her story and offbeat reasons for avoiding people and consumerism might resonate with folks feeling similarly overwhelmed by pressures this time of year. He offered to feature her as part of an ongoing series on
Holiday Perspectives.
Candace hesitated briefly, but the camaraderie of commiserating with someone amused rather than angered by her stance won her over. Will you include my sugar cookie catastrophe and how macrame garland eats Christmas trees for decorations? She joked. The tale spilled forth as they drove her home so she could watch herself on the late-night news. Within days, interview clips and memes of Candace's quirky explanations went viral online. She became a cult icon representing quieter holiday paths. Fan mail even arrived to her Leave Me Alonia door asking for advice on setting boundaries. By New Year's Eve, when a publisher contacted the former hermit about penning a book of witty memoirs on holiday isolation extremism, Candace finally understood her solo plight. She had shunned the frenzy to reclaim peace but overlooked connecting in moderation. Leveraging fame from her foibles, she resolved to write wisdom she had earned the quirky hard way this Christmas.
My AI buddies took Leave Me Alonia in a direction that I wouldn't have done, but the story is one of the better ones that I've uploaded so far. I will also add that there will be a Leave Me Alonia Volume 2 in the future at some point. You should hit the subscribe button and hit the notification button as well, so you'll know when the next volume of Leave Me Alonia will be released. Make sure to check out the It's Leave Me the Alone tee at my apparel site, justtextclothing.com. That's all I have to say for now. See you in the future.